All right, everyone. Today's video is going to be about the best farming methods in Tom Clancy's The Division and how to get specific pieces of gear that you'd like, aka the house, Big Alejandro, things like classified gear, and all of the different drop rates and tips and tricks for how to farm these things the most efficient way possible. Since there's a lot of new players and a lot of people interested in these items, I think it will be helpful. Number 5, weekly legendary missions and heroic incursions. The reason this is number 5 is because it does require you to have a well-coordinated team. But when you're doing these missions and you do them on heroic or legendary difficulty levels, you will get an exotic cache. So this is one of the ways to guarantee maximum chances every week to get things like the house, which is a highly sought after exotic at this point. Now, one of the reasons this is held back is because it is on a weekly rotation. You can't do this for 6 hours straight. You can only do them the one time. If you do them on legendary or heroic, you get the exotic cache, you get your chance at getting the house, and then it's over. And it does require a full and fairly well geared and well coordinated team. So this is something that you should do if you have the ability to, but that's the reason it's number 5 and it's not much higher on the list. You have a good chance at getting classified gear. You have a much better chance, if you are getting these exotic caches, at getting the house. But it's not something that all players can access, and it's not something that you can do for a very long period of time. Once it's done, and you have to wait until the next week. Number 4, HVTs. Now, HVTs are kind of restricted the same way that legendary missions and heroic incursions are, in the sense that they are on a weekly rotation. But they don't necessarily require a full team of well-geared and well-coordinating agents. You can actually complete them in a duo or sometimes solo if you know what you're doing, and if you take your time and have a decent enough build. They also have a great chance at classified gear. They have high frequency drops, and you should bang these out if possible, if you have the intel, every single week. But the reason they're not higher on the list is because you can't do them all the time. Once they're done, they're done. And, you know, they do run out, and they don't have great chances at exotics either. It's mostly just for classified gear and high frequency drops. Number 3, Underground. Now, there are some rumors that Underground is the best way to get the house exotic, or it's the best way to farm classified pieces of gear, but those rumors are false. The problem with Underground is, though it does offer viable rewards and you don't need to worry about, for instance, in the Dark Zone, getting your stuff stolen by other players, and it is viable for farming, I'm not saying that it's not. The thing to note is that it takes a long time to actually get to the final boss, and certain underground missions, such as critical infrastructure, where you defend 3 generators, take a very, very long amount of time, and they're not worth it at all. So Underground does give good rewards, but the frequency of the drops is much lower than some other methods. So Underground is viable for getting a variety of different materials, Phoenix credits, classified gear especially, and exotics even, but it's not the best method. You can get good RNG, you can get good luck and get some drops, but Underground only places at number 3 on the overall farming tier list. Number 2, Resistance. Now, Resistance is number 2 for a variety of reasons. Number 1, you can get drops from individual NPCs, and if you're by yourself, it's a little bit less efficient. If you have a team, it's more efficient, but as long as you build a lot of enemy armor damage and damage to elites, you should be okay. So you're getting drops from individual NPCs. You can get drops from bosses, which is very good. You also get proficiency caches, which are very, very helpful, and you get them at certain intervals. And then throughout the level, you can find different caches where you spend your SHD tech to unlock them. And those have a 60% chance at exotics. And they also have a very good chance at classified gear. So this is a very efficient way of having chances at exotics, especially in a team. And if you can farm enough SHD tech, if you know where they are, there are guides out there for Resistance in particular. But one other reason why Resistance comes in at number 2 in particular and ascends up the list further than you would think is because every cache that you get from the activity itself, the Resistance caches, after tier 2 has a 23% chance at an exotic. And with so many people chasing, in particular, the house, this is a great way to get tons of chances at that exotic and from the exotic drop pool. So 23% chance from every tier 2 cache and above, which is after wave 10. Every time you get to wave 10 and then go beyond, you'll start to get these that have a 23% chance, is very, very valuable. And it also has a great chance at classified gear, not to mention the proficiency caches, not to mention individual boss and NPC drops throughout the experience. So Resistance comes in at number 2. If you're by yourself, just build tons of enemy armor damage and damage to elites, and you can get much, much further. And if you have a team that's well coordinated, this is going to be a phenomenal farming method for you. Coming in at number 1, we have the Dark Zone. And this is not really an appealing answer for a lot of players when they're asking the question, where do I get the most loot, the fastest, the best drops? because the Dark Zone does have inherent risk to it. There's open PvP. But the Dark Zone, for a variety of reasons, not just because of classified gear or exotics, is the best place to farm, even for solo players. It can be risky, but there's things that you can do to mitigate that risk. I would highly recommend farming in an oval-shaped pattern in DZ 7 and 8, and a circular pattern here in DZ 5 and 6. There are a lot of chests in certain contaminated areas, there's a lot of different boss drops, and sometimes in the span of just about 5 minutes, you can kill 3 bosses or more. There's contaminated events, there's supply drops. You can kill 2 or 3 bosses and open 2 or 3 chests, and essentially have 4 different chances at the drop table that gives classified gear, and 2 or 3 chances at the drop table that gives exotics and or the house. So the Dark Zone is the most efficient place to farm. Now, sometimes you will have to server transfer. Sometimes you'll have to leave and come back if people are trying to grief you or checkpoint camp you. But if you have a lot of damage to elites, enemy armor damage, and you farm in these 2 locations with the oval and the circular pattern as displayed right now, you can get a lot of chests, you can get a lot of bosses. It's all grouped together very well, and it's the most efficient method for farming classified gear and mostly exotics as well. Outside of your weeklies, if you have a well-coordinated team and get all the exotic caches themselves, this is the best way to get those drops. Now, the other reason why the Dark Zone is head over heels better than all the other farming methods is because of the division tech. Basically, no matter what you do in the Dark Zone, whether it's just killing random NPCs, clearing landmarks, opening chests, getting sealed caches from drops that you then open after you extract them and give large amounts of division tech, you're going to be getting division tech all over the place. And with the new optimization station, this is a super valuable currency or material to have. This is another reason why you're not just farming for the best gear in the game, potentially in the drop table, you're also farming for the resource required to make it even better or to make previously dropped items that aren't as good and bring them up to a top tier. So division tech and the frequency of drops, because you can't really drop, farm for just the house and get the house more frequently, but you can increase the frequency at which you're getting access to that drop table by having a lot of different landmarks or chests in a rotation in the Dark Zone. So an oval pattern in Dark Zone 7 and 8, or a circular pattern in Dark Zone 5 and 6. There are a lot of chests. You can look those up, or you can just find them through your own exploration. The Dark Zone is head over heels the best farming method in the game. There is risk, but you kind of have to live with that because there's so much to gain from being in there. That's going to wrap it up for the farming guide overview today, guys. Hopefully you found this information helpful. There are drop tables out there. There are spreadsheets. There's a lot of data mined information. But that is a general breakdown of the tiers for farming. But as a good friend of mine, Eker, would tell everyone, and he told me when I came back to the game with 1.8, you should just farm whatever makes you happy. If you are a solo player, one more honorable mention tip here. If you're a solo player, then you should queue for Lexington Event Center. If you're just looking to get gear right now, and you haven't really geared up and you haven't advanced through the world tiers, queue for the highest difficulty of Lexington Event Center that you can. A lot of people are going to be excelling through that mission because it's a very fast way to get gear, and they will be willing to drop you things that they don't need. So if you're solo and you don't have a group of friends that are well geared or coordinated to play this game, then you can farm an initial way. It's very boring, but you can initially farm at Lexington Event Center, and then if you do have a group of well-geared allies who are super strong and you guys, synergize very well, then you can farm Clear Sky Incursion, put it on the hardest difficulty, and you can get through that in a matter of minutes. So put Clear Sky, hardest difficulty, excel through, tons of Phoenix credits, tons of regular credits, and tons of drops at the end. So make sure that if you're solo, Lexington, group, Clear Sky, and the best way to farm outside of that, without beating yourself into the ground with boredom, is the Dark Zone, Division Tech, tons of drops, and the various farming. I'm going to stop rambling now. Thank you for watching, guys. I very much appreciate it. Check out the links down below if you want to support the channel. I'll be doing more guides on things like this and farming or different builds in the future. And make sure you check out our new website, version 2.0 of our website, upperechelon.gg, with forums, social club features, calendar, etc. And let us know if you'd like to get more involved with the community. Thank you for watching again. As always, have a nice night.